Welcome to your Asana overview for 2026. In this video, I'll be walking you through all the basic features and functions of the tool so that you can make the most informed decision for your team. Now, my goal with any of my content is to educate you to the point where you have the confidence to see and understand that Asana is in fact the collaborative work management tool that will finally give your team the visibility and adoption they've been missing. We're gonna go deep here today, but if there's a feature you wanna focus on, feel free to skip ahead to that chapter. You can always come back to review something that you might have missed. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Marquis Murray. I'm the founder and CEO of Cirface, an award-winning Asana partner and systems improvement consultancy. And at Cirface, I will share with you, we get it. We understand that the investment you're making isn't a small one. So whether you're switching from another tool or adopting a work management tool for the first time, this video will answer most of your questions that you have. And if it doesn't, leave me a comment and I'll personally respond to your question. Now, let's jump in. Now, before we jump into the demo, I want to give you an overview of what the problem is we're trying to solve, how Asana answers that problem, and how Asana actually works so you can understand foundationally how Asana is built and how we think about collaboration. First, I want to describe to you something that is called the container model. Now, if you're coming from another tool, you're probably not familiar with this terminology, but this is how you've been working, and that's why you're watching this video today. The container model introduces silos. There's siloed information, there's duplicative work, and there's an inability to scale. And this is what that looks like. We have these different teams that are supposed to be able to work together, whether it's marketing, operations, IT, sales, and product. As you can see, they have their various tools that they would use in their respective departments. And we try our best to introduce tools to, bridge the gap, whether it's email to communicate with each other or programs like Slack or Zoom, but you can see that these are not collaborative work management tools. They're great for communication, and where we need to communicate and collaborate across these different departments, there is still a breakdown in that communication. Again, creating that siloed work, that duplicative work. And if we really break it down to its simple terms, it's the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. And so this is how a lot of the other project management tools out there are set up, whether it's Excel or another one of the big, different platforms that you're using or we would come from. Now, what Asana does is it takes this and it removes those silos. And Asana has crafted what we call the work graph. And this is what the work graph looks like. At its basic level, you have all of the different tasks. These are the individual packets of work that are assigned to a single person. They have a due date or a duration in time that we give them to be completed. Pretty simple, nothing earth-shattering there. These tasks can then be organized into projects. Projects are those larger packets of work, let's say 10 or more tasks, where people now need to communicate and collaborate with one another to reach a certain goal. And so tasks live within projects. Great, still nothing earth-shattering there. But what I want to illustrate here, and what these lines are helping us do, is showcase that a single task can live in multiple projects. At Asana, we call this multihoming. And so one task, one version of the task, multiple teams can live in multiple places so that everyone on those different teams can understand and have context into the work that's happening that is shared across these different teams. It's not a duplicate of that task. It's not another version of that task. It's the single instance of that task. We can then take these projects and organize them into portfolios. Portfolios are simply folders. You can organize like projects by groups, by teams, by department, by region, depending on your department. There are different ways that we can think about how to utilize projects and portfolios. Then, as you can see, as we go up the work graph here, is that we have goals. So any of your strategic initiatives, your objectives, your key results, your rocks, depending on what methodology you follow, you can organize all of those in Asana. And then at the very, very top of the work graph, we have the mission, the why this company exists, the why we are doing this work. And so what this work graph does is a few things. It allows us top down to drive from our mission to our goals, to basically help us prioritize the different work that we have to do. And for leadership, this gives us a glimpse into what initiatives, what work, who those people are, and what projects are moving us towards our goals. And then from the bottom up, it allows us working in those tasks, checking off those things day to day, to see that our work matters. We're moving towards something. There's a reason why we're doing all of this work. It's not just about what the work is or how to do it, but it's also about why we are doing this. And so that brings everyone into the bigger picture. What's nice about this work graph is, like we've multi-homed our tasks, we can then multi-home these projects into different portfolios. So if you're an executive leader, you can have the projects and visibility that you want to see without having to dive down into all the different details. And to take it a step further, we can then have reporting and status updates at the goal level, at the portfolio level, at the project level, to give us insights into the various levels of work. Now, what I'm going to be overviewing at some point in the video, feel free to skip ahead to that chapter, are the different ways that AI has now integrated itself into these different places in Asana, where we can gather context on the tasks that are being performed and completed. We can take a look at the projects. We can have AI sit in at the portfolio level to let us know what projects are at risk of, not being met, what tasks are going to cause us to not hit our strategic goals or our deadlines for our different launches and campaigns, right? And we can get insight through AI into what's happening at all of these different nodes. Now, when we zoom out from the work graph, this is what it looks like. Here we have our marketing team in green. We've got our operations team in red, IT in purple, sales in gray, and then our product team in blue. And all these little nodes, these all represent the different tasks, projects, and portfolios, and the lines connecting them describe the relationship between them. This is where collaboration happens. This is where multi-homing is actually happening. There are no silos here. Teams have insight into exactly what the next team is doing. Communication is centralized. Status updates are centralized. All of the reporting we need is centralized so that everyone is always on the same page. And that is the difference that Asana makes. And so before we got into the actual platform, I wanted to give you this overview. But now let's jump into the demo. When you jump into Asana, you're going to be greeted by your homepage. Your homepage is your command center for everything you need to know about the projects and tasks that you are tracking. It's going to start with a nice good morning. This is my demo account. Of course, this is not my name, but this is going to give you a view into all of your tasks that are upcoming, overdue, or completed. It's going to give you a view into your most recent starred or recommended projects based on, the team that you're working in. And so you can switch between these views. I don't have any starred projects just yet. You can see the people you most collaborate with. And then we can obviously customize this view where we can change the color to our liking, and we can add in the different widgets that speak to us. So if we want to see tasks that you've assigned to other people, you can get a really quick snapshot into those tasks, where they live, and then be able to jump into them to understand what's the status of this. Hey, can I get an update without having to track people down or have tasks really fall through the cracks? You can then get your goals and pull them in here. So any goals that you're following or you're accountable for, you can have all of those right here in your homepage. After the homepage, we have My Tasks. My Tasks is your central view for every single task that's assigned to you. By default, it's a private view for yourself. No one else can see your tasks here unless there is a public project where other people are working. They would be able to see this task. So in this case, error code 4562 originated in the IT requests project. We'll get into projects shortly. And so the folks that are in this project can see this task here. But if I wanted to add a task that said, pick up milk after work, this is private to only me currently. In the task visibility custom field, you can get a quick snapshot. So anyone who's a collaborator on this, they have visibility into it. This space, this organization, or this company is called Phoenix. And so anyone in Phoenix, because they have access to this IT request project, can see this task. So just be careful when you are creating tasks here, who you're sharing them with, because those things do matter. What's nice about My Tasks is that you can organize this to your liking. You can have tasks that are due today, due next week, due later. And these sections are really easy to customize. So if I wanted to change this to do never, or I can change this to do next year, we can do that. So we can add different sections. This could be for my manager, and we can simply organize work into these different sections and then close them up if we don't want to view those tasks. So my task is your central place where you can organize all of your work, and you know that everything that's been assigned to you from the various projects all lives here. What's nice about this as well is you can change the way that you view your My Tasks. So if you're more of a Kanban person, you can switch to the board view. You can move your tasks around like this. If you want to look at it on a calendar view, you can look at it on a week-to-week basis. You can change it to month as well, whatever you're really comfortable with. Next, we'll go to the inbox, and I will come back to these. I just want to give you an overview before we dive in to the real content. In this case, your inbox is your place where all of your notifications come to. So anytime you're on a project, you are on a task, there's a status change, there's an update, someone leaves a comment for you, a task is completed, a milestone achieved, you will see that change right here. And so our best practice is always to come in here and start your day this way, really, because this will allow you to catch up from the day before. The last time you were in Asana was maybe 4 p.m. the night before. There's been some changes. Maybe the West Coast team was updating some things. You want to know what's going on and what you may have missed or what you need to prioritize as you get into today. And so I always want to come through and take a look at the different tasks and notifications here. So in this case, Alan Wang marked this request as approved. Great, lovely, that's great. Awesome, thanks for that. I don't need to take any action on this, so I'm simply going to archive that notification. Archives live in a special archive tab, so they don't go anywhere. If you need to get back to them, you can easily get back to them. But the goal is to get through this, and by the time you're ready to start your day, get to inbox 0. I always love to end my day with inbox 0 to know that there's nothing that's waiting on me and to know that there isn't a notification that I've missed. If you do need to, you can come into any of these and you can say, looks great, at Alan, thanks for doing this. And we can leave a comment for Alan there. And same thing, I can go and archive that request there. We're going to navigate away from the inbox for now. But again, think about this as your notification center. If you miss something, if you wonder, hey, I didn't get that response from you, it's probably in your inbox here. And you want to make sure that this is always something that you're reviewing and, making sure you're on top of. What's nice is if there is something that you want to come back to, you don't want to forget about it, but you do want to clear out your inbox, you can always bookmark it. So now we've bookmarked this really important message. Let me take a look at it. I don't have the time to review this just now. I can archive it to get it out of my view. And I just pressed E, which is the shortcut for archiving, E on the keyboard. And it's been removed from my view. I can always come back to my bookmark later on and I can view that comment and I can take action on that. If it's something I definitely didn't want to forget, right? Rather than simply bookmarking it, I could also go into the task and create a subtask for myself. So I could say, review legal documents. I would assign it to myself. And I could say, I'm going to look at this on Monday. There we go. So now I have a task in my, you guessed it, my tasks to review that task on Monday. There it is. And we can see that it is a subtask of the customer escalation product feature request task. The due date is Monday, and it's a part of the customer escalations project. All right. And so that is how we can get from inbox back to our My Tasks. Now we're going to take a look at our insights. So I'm not going to go deep here just yet. I want to get to creating a project and start adding some tasks and creating some automations so you can see what that looks like. Your insights, though, is the place where you can see different reporting. So if we were to click into this, you can have what we call global reporting. And so it allows you to come in and create dashboards. So if we were to add a dashboard, we can add a dashboard where you can pull information from anywhere in Asana, any project, any task that is public and you have access to, of course. Privacy and permissions is very important, but you can pull in information and basically create your own chart here, your own dashboard of the charts, the metrics that matter to you. And so it could be incomplete projects or tasks by project, estimated and actual time over time, this month's tasks by projects, and we can start to build out our own custom dashboards here. Further down in Insights, we have resourcing. So Asana also allows you to set workload or view workload and set capacity for future projects as well. So you could come in and create a workload view where you can add different people into Asana. So if I wanted to see, say, Alan and Kelly, I can add them in here. And then I'd be able to see their workload across Asana. Workload by default is set to tasks that are assigned to that person, but Asana allows you to change the measure of effort to either percentage allocation or estimated time. And so over time, we'll start to build projects together. And I have lots of other videos on resource management and workload and capacity. Feel free to watch any of those. But we'll see how, creating estimated time and viewing workload allows us to stay on top of all of our different people in our organization, so we're not overloading anyone or underutilizing any of our team members. We can also set capacity as well for future planning. We're not going to get too deep into this today, but you can add your different projects in here. And so if I brought in my customer escalation project, I can bring it in and then I can say, great, who is going to be assigned to this? And what's nice is you can actually pull in a real person who will be utilized in that project, let's say for 25% of their time over, these couple of weeks. Or if we're not sure who's going to be assigned to that task just yet, Asana also has placeholders. So placeholders are great where we can say, we need a designer, for example, and they're going to be in the operations team. Maybe they'd be in the marketing team, actually. Let's create that. So now we have a person who is a placeholder, and we are going to add them into our work here as well. So we're going to say this person is going to be allotted for about 10% of their time. Let's delete that one right there. Right? And when we get to actually resourcing that time, we can then come over here and we can say, great, we're going to transfer that allocation to Kelly, because now we have a better understanding of Kelly's workload from our other chart. And now we can transfer it over here. All right. Portfolios, again, these are your folders. We're not going to take a look at them just yet. I'm going to build my project first and we'll come back here. But in this case, you can have your own private portfolio. You can have a portfolio for various campaigns. You can set it up based on region. You can really have a lot of fun with portfolios. And what's nice is if person A adds projects to their portfolio and person B adds the same projects to their portfolio, they can both create different views, they can have different reports, and they won't even know about each other. So it's a really nice way to get to the information you need right away. Last but not least, in the Insights tab are goals, right? So if you're watching and you're a person who loves goals, loves accountability, or is a person in charge of delivering these goals and rolling them out to your team, Asana, as we saw in the work graph, starts at the top. We would select a team or an organization. We can set our company goals and objectives. We can set how we measure and track all these different goals. We can assign ownership to different people. We can set statuses. And then if we go back to our global reporting, we can even create reports around our goals as well, so we can deliver those to our various stakeholders. It's very powerful. And then similar to our My Tasks, we have a My Goals section as well, where the person who's assigned to a goal can see just the ones that they are responsible for completing or bringing across the finish line in their own view right there. We'll come back to all of these in later videos, but if you do want to know any more, again, I've created videos on reporting, resource management, we have dedicated portfolio videos, and we have dedicated goals videos. So feel free to check those out at any point after you finish this video. So let's get into creating projects and teams. I'm going to direct you to what we call the Omni button at Asana. When we click on this, you'll see you can create from this stage a task, a project, a message that can go out to the different people in your team or within a project. You can create a team here, a portfolio goal, or invite folks. Depending on the time you're watching this, and if you have AI enabled in your instance, you might see AI teammates right below goals. It's not in this demo environment, but AI is very powerful in this platform. And at the time of this recording, it's December 2025, getting ready for 2026. AI Teammates is being rolled out globally to the teams that want to take advantage of the powerful nature of the built-in AI tooling. But we're going to start by creating a team, right? You're brand new to Asana. You want to make sure that your team has a place where you can all aggregate, you can all create together, you can communicate, and have a central place to go. So we're going to create a team, and we're going to call this team, I like marketing. I love marketing. There's already one. I'm going to call this marketing demo for this example. And so I can choose to add my different members here. So I'm going to add in, we already know Alan and Kelly. Maybe there are a few others. Let's see who else we have here. Beverly, and let's bring in Finn. This is our marketing team. All right. So all of these people are going to be receiving a notification that they've been added to this team. And then we're going to add in some projects here in a moment. And they're going to be notified that they've been added to this team, and they have the ability now to navigate throughout this team to see what's at their disposal. All right. By default, we have a public to organization privacy setting. Now, this can be changed if you are an administrator of Asana. This can be changed at the admin level, but you can change this at any point throughout the duration of your Asana usage. I like public to organization because it allows anyone to find the team and join the team. But if you did want to make it private, it would only be accessible to the people that I'm adding here today. Another feature here is where we can set it to membership by request. And so it can be visible in the space, but no one can access it until a team admin, in this case, allows them access. And so let's just keep it public for the time being, and let's create our new team. Now, if we did want to make any changes to anything we just set up, we can come right up here to the chevron and we can edit our team settings. So we can change it to now membership by request. We can then see a list of all of our members. I mentioned team admins. So if I wanted to promote Alan to a team admin, Alan will now be one of the people who, actually, let's go back over here. Let's change it. Okay, we are membership by request. Now Alan will be one of the people who will receive a notification that somebody wants to join the team. So Alan and I would have had to have come up with some kind of conventions or some kind of guidelines to say, if someone requests, why would they need access to this? Are they actually on the marketing team? Are they snooping? And so we can make the decision on whether or not we want to give them access. And so in this case, that's how team admins work. They can make changes to the structure of the team, invite or remove people, or accept those requests as they come in. Now, in the members tab of your team, you're going to, again, see all the different team members, okay? We're going to talk a lot about custom fields today, but we can add different custom fields that if we wanted to add things like cost of that person, or region that that person is in, or their time zone, anything like that, we can add that information here by creating a custom field. By default, you're going to get their job title as it is stated in their profile. Then I'm going to go to the All Work tab. This is where we're going to spend our time and where we're actually going to create our project. So while that's loading up, I'm going to explore the other tabs. In Messages, this is the place where you can send a message to everyone on your team. So if you're using Teams, as in Microsoft Teams or Slack, or you're still sending internal emails, this is a great way to move away from those, right? I'm a firm believer that all of the work and the people and communication around the work should be happening in the place that the work is also happening. And so if we wanted to, share a message, we are now on Asana. Yay, just like that. We can send a message to everyone. Hey team, I'll be setting up our first project. Let me know if you have any issues. Now I'm going to broadcast this message and it's going to say that 4 people will be notified. Those are the 4 people that I added to my team. Let's go off and send that. And then my team can come in and we can now connect. Now you'll notice this message is not specific to any project or a single task, right? This is a team level communication here. And then our other team members can come in and join in on the fun, leave their little emojis. Great, feeling good, love Asana, can't wait to dive in. All right, let's go back to our all work tab here now, and let's start adding our projects. So I'm going to create a project from scratch. Here, when we are starting Asana for the very first time, we have a few tools at our disposal. I'm going to walk you through a few of them here before we get to what I actually want to do, which is creating just a blank project. So we can go in and you'll notice across the top, you can click on these different tabs. So if you're just starting out with Asana, I'd recommend exploring some of these templates. There are so many of them based on your use case. They're built based on a lot of the case studies and customers that we've actually, helped get implemented and started on Asana. And so if you're in marketing, you can go to the marketing tab. If you're looking for campaign management, this is how ClassPass does it. Creative requests, if you are a person that, is fielding creative requests, that up until this point, you have been receiving requests via Slack, email, sticky notes, Teams, WhatsApp, anything. This is a great way to centralize all of those requests. So feel free to explore these different templates to see what's available to you. Now, again, you're watching this video, you're getting started with Asana. If you're coming from a world where you use spreadsheets, maybe you use Smartsheet or Excel in your day-to-day, you can import all of that information. So if we wanted to create a new project, I'm just going to call this project demo. It's going to be shared with the team. We can then pull that information in. So if we're coming from PDFs or docs or PowerPoint, or if we have a CSV file, we can drag that in here and the familiar, column and row style will be adopted into Asana, and Asana will kind of take that information and it'll say, great, love what you got here. This is how we can set it up. And it will give you those custom fields already, and it will get you working within just a few minutes. And so if you're getting started, you're a bit concerned about what this could look like, about how to actually get started, take one of your spreadsheets, take a doc that you're used to working out of, import it this way, and just see what Asana gives you. It's going to look very familiar when you first get started. And so don't be intimidated, but that's what I'd recommend if you are coming from a world where you're using spreadsheets or docs. The last thing I'll show you here before we get to the blank project is you can create with AI. So we can give it a prompt, right? We can give it a prompt and we can say, hey, we have a campaign management or event planning. These are some suggestions that it gives you. Or we can give it, just real human-like prompts here. So I need to create a marketing intake project to receive requests from the team for various marketing assets. And we can get started with our chat here. Great, and it said, I'll create a marketing intake project for you to streamline asset requests for your team. This will include a structured workflow, intake form, capture all your necessary details, and so on. And so, as you can see, it's starting to create that project. It's got a new request section, in review, in progress, ready for review. I've created and opened the marketing assets request project for you. In the project overview, it's actually given us some information. So if we click over to overview, we can see, or this is the information that will be populated in the description here, the key features of the project as well. It's also created a nice form for us, right? And it's given us some instructions on how to use this. So our form sits up here. We can take a look at this form. We can view this form and submit this form. So what's the asset type? Campaign materials. We can give it some information and we can submit said form. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, Marquis, let's just keep going with this. This is an example. I don't want to get too specific here on what this looks like, but you can go to the project. Actually, let's just go to the project now so that it's there. We can come back to it if we need it. Now I'm going to go back to my team here for a moment, to marketing demo. I'm actually going to star this team now. And you notice in the left-hand side here, we have insights, projects, teams. Watch what's going to happen. Now we have this starred section where anything we star, we want to come back to because it's really important, and we don't want to have to go drill down in all of our different projects and teams having to look for the work that matters to us the most. And so we can go back to all work. Okay, and we're going to create our new project here together. Now, rather than a template or using AI or importing, we're just going to create a blank project to just really get started. So I'm going to call this Basics Demo. It's going to live in the marketing demo team. If we wanted this project to live somewhere else, we could change that. And it's going to populate all the other teams where we could place this project. So if we wanted it to live in the staff team or operations, we could change that at any point. And again, like we did for our team, we can change the default privacy here. Do I want everyone in my organization to have access to this project? Do I just want the team to have access to this project? Or do I want it to be private to just the people that I add to this project? So I'm going to keep it to shared with my team so that the other 4 can see exactly what's going on. Here we have an additional prompt where if we did want to give AI some guidance on what we want this to look like, we could do that. But we're going to bypass and just continue here for a moment. Now, all of your different views here can be selected when you're starting. You can change this at any point, but this will give you an overview, which is just one, kind of a one-pager of the project, the stakeholders. I'll show you what that looks like. You can have your list view, which is the default view, and then you can add your various views. So let's add on a Gantt chart there, and let's add on a note view there as well. And let's get into our project. So our project is now ready. As you can see, it is blank. What I'm going to do, I'm going to close up the sidebar here so that we have more space to work in. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is the overview section. I mentioned there's lots in AI that we're going to go through today. And the first thing we're going to look at is the AI summary. So this is private to you, private to me. So every person that enables this AI summary will get a custom view into what this project is doing, what activity there's been, and what information would be important to that person. And so I would recommend the second you get access to a project, you come and turn these features on, so long as AI is enabled in your space. If it's not, get to your IT team and make the case to turn it on, because there's so much under the hood you may be missing if you're not subscribed to AI here. And so we can turn on our recent activity. So what will happen is similar to your inbox that we showed earlier, you can get an AI summary of all of the different activities and changes that happen. All right. Similarly, we can get a risk report. So what AI is doing is it's looking at the due dates, it's looking at the deadlines, it's looking at your critical path and those milestones, and it's identifying issues before they become issues, or potential risks before they become issues. And so I would say, I'd love a risk report, please. It's going to include that so that I can understand what I need to look at, what I need to focus on the next time I come into this project. And then I'm going to suggest, just a suggestion, to turn on Get Regular Updates. Now, what this will do is it will provide an inbox notification and an email every single week. So this is your auto-generated status update that will come to you. You don't have to go chase anybody for it. You don't have to request a status update. You don't have to dig down through thousands of tasks. You get a summary that is specific to you. And so this project is brand new. It's not going to give me a summary, but if I did click on Generate Summary, it's going to start drafting my report and I'll be notified when it's done. Again, it's not going to have any information, but again, you won't have to do this after the fact. There's no recent activity, of course, and there's no risk assessment done, of course. But as we start building our project, we'll see these things start to auto-populate. And when we come back to the overview, we can dig into that information and take the necessary action. Then we can have our project description. So this is the reason why this project exists. It will describe to everyone within the project. Let's start adding some people, actually. Let's go and add Alan. Let's go and add Kelly. And then I believe it was Finn. Now, you'll notice that this says private to members. I don't have to add Alan, Kelly, and Finn here. They're already members of the team, right? And so these folks will see this project. I do not need to add them again. They already have visibility into it. What this allows us to do is add in other people who are not in the team, but may need to collaborate with us in this project setting. And so now I can invite them to our team or to our project, forgive me. They are not in the marketing demo team, like the 5 members we already know are, okay? But they may need to support in different ways throughout this project. So we want to bring them in. So we could have people from finance in here, and we could have people from operations in here, or sales in here, and they only have visibility to this project. Nothing else that we would create in the marketing demo team, right? So we have lots of flexibility here. And then we can even go in and say, you know what, Charlie, you don't need to edit anything in this project, right? I just want you to be able to comment. I don't want you to be able to change anything. Just give me your feedback, all right? And then for Linda, who maybe is, in operations, I don't want you to comment on it. We don't need your input. I just want to inform you of what's going on. And so if you need a view into what's happening, I'm going to create a viewer seat for you in this project, right? And so that's the extent of the abilities that these folks will have. But then if I want someone else to administer this project with me, say Alan again, I can promote Alan from an editor to a project admin. So a project admin will have full access to changes. I'll show you what some of those changes can look like to modify this project, delete the project, archive the project. Until now, it's only been me, okay? Best practice is to have at least 2 team admins, project admins, or at the governance level, super admins for your space. A minimum of 2 any space that you're in, so that if you're unavailable, you're out of office or on PTO, or you leave the company, there is someone else who can continue on and govern that space without there being any kind of interruption. And so we can close out of that. Now we have our different team members. Our project description would be, this is a Asana Basics overview video demo. And let's change that. Let's change that again. There we go. All right, let's keep going here. Now, I mentioned in the work graph that, when we're working in the day-to-day, we want to understand what our work is actually doing. What impact are we having in the organization, in the world? Right? What does that look like? So within this space, we would usually do this from the goals module, which we saw within the insights a bit earlier, but we can pull in an existing goal. So I'm just going to pull in some, arbitrary goals here. There's no rhyme or reason, but I would be able to see, that this project, when completed, will move us closer to achieving the launch of new thought leadership series with 12 articles. So maybe we're going to create an article today. Who knows? And then number 2, the other goal that my work is impacting is to configure training sessions on prospect outreach and engagement. Amazing. I'm actually doing something. I know why this matters to me, and I'm more prone to take it seriously and to, put my all really into it. And then we can add this to a portfolio. I'm not going to do this just yet. We're going to create a portfolio first, but you'll be able to see what projects or what portfolio, your project lives in. So remember we spoke about multi-homing, where person A can have a portfolio in their different projects, and portfolio B owned by another person can have different projects. We can see what those portfolios are so long as they are public or we as the member are invited to them. So again, if the portfolio, team, or project is private to members only, and that's the setting that you add on, it will only be private to those people. But anything public is accessible, is searchable. I want to make you aware that we do want to make sure we're taking them seriously. And then in this team space or project space, we can also add our different key resources. And so we can create a project brief here where, we can have a executive summary and populate that with information like so. We can have our problem statement and drag those in, or we can just add in our own type of information. So we can embed links here. So if we wanted to embed a YouTube video, like this one, hey, we're getting started with Asana. There's this guy on YouTube who creates his videos. Hey, you should watch this. We can embed that right here. We can embed a Figma board or a Canva artwork board here as well. And even Miro can be embedded here, and we can actually like work with it within this space. And so we can create things like that here. And as we start populating our project with milestones and tasks, you'll see all those milestones generate here. All right, let's go and start creating our project though. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Maybe you've skipped to this point, but we're gonna start, building out our project here. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add a section. Okay, a section is just a way to organize all of our work. So let's say our team here, one of the use cases is, we're creating articles or marketing assets. And I'm actually going to change the name of this team. Let's just call it Marketing Basics Demo. So in this section, we can call this To Do. I can add another section. I can call this In Progress. Tab N, as in Nancy, creates a new section. Needs approval. Tab N. Approved, like so, and then another tab N allows us to create the done section. So now we can start adding our different tasks. So what's nice is, when we're on our planning meeting the next time, we can all kind of sit around here, or the project manager or product owner in this case could come in and, start adding tasks. Maybe we had a meeting, there's some action items. What do we need to do for the article we want to create? Draft article. Maybe we need to do research on the article. We need to define a tone, right? Whatever tasks we need to complete, we could start adding them here. Each of these tasks that you can see, remember, these are the individual packets of work that are assigned to a person, and then we add a due date. A task is not complete until you have a descriptive task title, you have someone assigned to it, and we have a due date. And I want to take it a step further to say that you need context. Context in this case is added via the description of the task. And so I'm going to say for the holiday launch, we need to create 5 thought leadership articles. Please start drafting these articles, right? Something like that, some context. If there was a style we wanted them to write in, we could obviously link those here. So we could have our HTTPS article reference.com /draft now, right? We could link that right in here and hyperlink that out like so. We could add more information in here. We could pull in our PDFs or our docs, wherever they might live. We can link to our Google Docs or, whatever the case may be. So now this task is ready to get going. So when it's time, I'm going to start with this task. I'm going to move it into In Progress. There we go. Everyone on the team knows that draft articles is now in progress. When the article has been drafted, we can move it into Needs Approval, and then maybe someone else would come in to approve this task here. When they have approved it, we would move it through to the Approve stage, and then we can move it to Done. Awesome. We've just completed our first task. We're so much closer to creating this article. All right. So that's the basics of how Asana works. Let's take a deeper look at the task detail before we start talking about how we can automate some of this and create some more visibility, right? And because that was a lot of clicking, that was a lot of moving. But within our task here, again, we have an assignee. Asana by default can be assigned to one person. The task can be assigned to one person. you'll see that you can assign to multiple people, all right? What this will do, and I'll give you 2 examples here. What this will do is it will make it, so that I get a version of this task, but then let's go to Alan again. Sorry to keep picking on you, Alan. We can assign this task to Alan as well. And so what it will do is it'll create another version of this task. Asana believes in accountability, and it believes that, the one person should be responsible for completing that task, as to not, add, clutter or, uncertainty to who's responsible for moving this task across the line. And so if we were both responsible for drafting these, there were, maybe 5 that we need to create. So we could say at Niha will be responsible for 3 articles. And then maybe at Alan, he's responsible for 2 articles, right? Something like that. I'm just going to copy this over to our other tasks so that we have that same visibility there. So that's one way you could do it, right? But if we didn't want to do it that way, if we said that, in this case, Niha is responsible for all 5 articles being completed, but needed support, from someone like Alan, that's where we could use subtasks. So we can come in here and we can say, please draft 3 of 5 articles and show to Niha. And then we can assign this to Alan with a due date of today, right? Because the task is due on Monday. And you'll notice now that we have this accordion we can expand, and we can see that with this draft articles tasks, we can see that Alan has to complete, 3 of the 5 by today so that Niha can complete, the other 2. Right. And so that's another way to look at it, where we have the person who's going to be, maybe accountable to, this task being completed, but then we need support from Alan. And then maybe we need those 2 more. So we can say, please draft 2 of 5 articles and show Niha. There we go. And this could be assigned to Kelly for today. So now we have 2 subtasks. Now we can go down another layer of subtasks. I almost don't want to show this to you, but if you're coming from something like Smartsheet, for example, where you're familiar with like the hierarchical tree or work back structure, you can drill down to another layer of subtasks here. We can even go into this and we can go subtask like this. But what will happen is you'll notice that with Asana, you can see that there are 2 subtasks. When we open it up, we can see that there's another subtask. But then there is another subtask within, right, that we cannot see until we drill down into it. So the danger here is that you're going down 5 or 6 layers of subtasks and you're losing tasks. And so as much as you can, it's encouraged to keep a lot of the context and information in the main parent task and only go down 1 or 2 layers of subtasks if you need to. All right, so just want to point that out. As we go down, we can see that there is a kind of like tracking log here. So we have comments, so we can view all activity. And so this task was created 7 minutes ago. That's the first instance of this task. It was added to the marketing basics demo. It was assigned to me. The due date was changed to Monday. So it's tracking every single change that we have added to this task here. And so in addition to that, this will also track all of our different comments. So whereas earlier we had a team level message that went out, now we're looking at a message or a comment that will go out to just the people on this task. So at Alan, and at Kelly, please let me know when your drafts are finished, please. And then we can leave a comment. So any comments that come up, from here until the completion of this task will all be tracked here and kept in the same place. Okay. One more thing I'll show you in the task detail here. Anyone that's on a task can come in and like it. You can upload your different assets here. If you want to connect to your Google Drive or SharePoint or Box or Dropbox, you can do that here. If you're an organization that wants to restrict access even to some of these different apps, you can do that at the admin console level, so long as you are on at least the enterprise plan. But for now, they're wide open to anyone to have access to them. You can also do a lot more with your tasks. And so we're not going to get too deep today as far as advanced uses of Asana, but we can add this to another project. So if you recall, we spoke about multi-homing and we showed you what that actually looked like on the work graph. So I'm going to add this task to another project. And so I'm going to choose my customer escalations, my familiar customer escalations project from earlier. And as you can see, it's not in our marketing demo team. It's actually on the staff team where Alan is currently the only member. And in that case, a team admin. So I'm going to add this to the customer escalations project here. And as you can see, our task currently sits in the done section. We can change that if we want to. We can put it back to in progress and the task moves. Another way to do that is we can hover over these arrows right here and we can change the section that this task is in. And as we saw earlier, we can hover over the left and move them around. So this task is being updated, changed, and worked on by all of the folks that are on this task. But now, because we've added it or multi-homed it to the customer escalations, it lives in the new requests space in that project. So I'm going to click over to customer escalations. And as you can see, we have a completely different view. So now we're looking at a board view. As you can see, the sections are different. We've got a new request, backlog, in progress, completed. And so in this case, we have a new request for the customer escalations team to draft these articles. And so the person here, let's say we assign it to someone else on that team. So let's go with someone brand new. Jamie Staples has been assigned this task in this space. It's now up to them to move this task through their stages. And then they can come back down to the comments. And Jamie, of course, would be the one commenting, not Neha. But we can say, thanks, team. This task is in progress. Jamie. Like that, right? And so Jamie's working on this. The task is there. We know all is good, all is well. And we can go back to our marketing demos project while this sits in the in progress stage and is assigned to Jamie. So again, this is the power of Asana. We have these different teams across Asana that right away, instantly, without having to search for different, places or resources or go into different platforms, can have the same conversation around the same piece of work. We don't have to stop there though. We can put this into the IT requests project. And then the IT requests team, who again has another set of stages, has a completely different workflow, who has some automations even running via rules in Asana, to organize their work and prioritize their work. But there's no impact on how we communicate about that work. And so again, that's the real power of Asana, is allowing us to break down those silos. So let's get back over to our project here and let's start having some fun by creating some of those custom fields. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change what these sections look like. All right. So I'm actually going to change these here. I'm going to change these sections to do something a little bit different. So because this is a marketing basics demo, I'm going to give you another example of what this could look like. And let's start adding some custom fields and moving some work around, creating some dependencies, automating this work a little bit for us so you can see what really is possible. And so in this case, I'm going to create this one. I'm going to call this articles, let's just say. This one I will call design. This one I will call emails. And this one I will call social media. And I'm going to move this up here. All right, I'm going to delete this section for us. All right. This might be your use case. It may not. I'm making this up right now. All right. I just want to show you some of the different options for us. So please apply this to your own use case. Now, what we're going to do is, let's say we have Article 1. It needs to be written. We've got Article 1, Article 2. We've got Design 1 and Design 2, Email 1, Email 2. And then we got Social Media 1 and Social Media 2. Let's add another section. We're going to call this New Requests. All right. And we're going to put it at the very top just by hovering over like we did with our task. And we can drag and drop it anywhere we want to. Next, we're going to go in and we're going to add our first set of custom fields. And we're going to look for a custom field in our library that can help us to see the stage that each of these pieces of content is at as we're working on them. Okay. And so I'm going to add this field and I'm going to search the library. You'll see by default, we have access to a lot of different types of fields. So single select field, multi-select, date, people or reference fields. We can even create formulas and specific task ID fields. Earlier, we spoke about, workload and estimated time. We can time track in Asana as well. There are time sheets. I'm not going to get into all of it today. We have timers for SLAs. We have roll-up fields as well to aggregate information. There's so many different options here. But our best practice when adding a field to a project is to start in your library. Your library is the place that for your entire organization houses all of the fields that are available to you. So if someone has created a field already called task status, we don't want to have 20 different variations of task status. We want to create some standards. So we always want to go search the library first. So I'm going to go in and look at status. We have a status design. Let's see what options are available to us. So request, scoping, in progress, creative review, completed, on hold, not doing. That looks pretty good. I don't really need anything else than that. And because we're creating and designing things here, this actually works for us. So if we had a task come in, let's say this was Article 3. Let's say someone's requesting a new article from us. There was a form, they submitted it, which we haven't created yet. We can come in and we can tell Asana that when a task is submitted via a form, we want it to have the request, field assigned to it. And for these articles, maybe we're scoping one's in progress. For design 1 and design 2, they can be in creative review or it can be completed, right? If it was completed, it would actually be completed like that. And then email 1 or 2, let's give these a couple of different statuses like that. Maybe social media 1 is on hold and social media 2, we're not doing. Something's going on in social media land that we need to have addressed, okay? And so what's nice about this is we can now create different views and, have different automations for different things where we can start, automating more of our work so that none of this falls through the cracks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an automation. It's going to be a really basic automation that when a task is completed, the status is going to automatically update to completed, right? And so the best way to do that is to go up in the top right of the project. We're going to click on Customize, and we're going to go to our rules. This is Asana's answer to automations. We call them rules. We can go and we can add a rule. Now, when you get started, you're going to be greeted with this nice, what do we want to automate today? And so you can put in your prompt and Asana is going to suggest a couple of things. It's going to suggest the type of rule you can create and what that rule can look like. And so straight out the gate, our featured rules are going to be AI driven. All right. If you don't have AI on, it's okay. We can still create automations here without having to create one of these predefined rules. These are here to help you understand what's available. So if you want to standardize task names or flag incomplete requests when they're received, something we'll look at a bit later, you can create those. We can say that if a due date is approaching, we can move a task to a certain section. There's so much we can automate in Asana, and there's so much of it that depends on these custom fields, which is why we're taking this dive into it now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start from scratch and just walk us through it. All right. So without even enabling AI Studio or having it on, the basic function is when something happens, if these conditions are met, then do this. That's it, right? So in this case, we can click on when. Let's just close down AI Studio for a moment. We can click on when. And if you're curious about AI Studio, I've got lots of videos on AI Studio. Feel free to check those out. When, in this case, we want to look at a task and its status being changed. So when a task or all subtask completion is changed. So in this case, choose an option. If we want this to just run on tasks, we would do that. If we want subtasks to be included, we would select that option. We're just going to keep it at tasks for now. And when the task is changed, all right, we can set it directly to complete because we know that's what we want to do, right? So we can set it to complete. In this case, I'm going to keep it on change for a second to show you what conditional checks could look like. So when a task is changed, we want to check if, let's scroll back down to our task stage completion here. So if the task is complete, we then want to do this. We want to change the status design to completed, just like that. Before we leave, we're going to set the name of our rule here. So I'm going to call this completed tasks, like so, and I'm going to publish that rule. Now, if I click on Article 2 and complete it, it's automatically going to make a change to completed. There we go. All right, we've just created our first rule and we've automated something. All right, we can then go back into our rules. So let's say we want to go through the stage where we actually have to get something approved. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create another rule here, and I'm going to add this, and I'm going to start from scratch, and I'm going to call this approval needed. So we can say when, and we'll find our status design custom field here is changed. We want to check if status design is set to creative review. So then we want to do this. We're actually going to create a subtask here. And we can come in and we can say, please approve parent task. Something like that. We can assign this a due date that's based on when the rule is triggered. So when this creative stage is changed, that's the due date. It's relative to that. Or we can create a relative date that is 1 day, later, or 2 days later after the relation date. Okay, so that's one way we can take a look at it. And then we can create the person who we want to assign this to. So I want Kelly to be the person that's assigned to this task. Now, keep in mind, when Kelly receives this task, they're going to see a task called please approve parent task. They're going to see that it's connected to the parent task. But if we want to give them a bit more context and remove the kind of thought of like, what task is this related to? We're context switching maybe. We just want to give them more information. We can use variables here to give more information. So rather than saying, please approve parent task, I'm going to remove that there. And I'm going to click on this plus sign here. to add a variable. And so what this will do is it will give us options. So if we did want to use AI, we could have AI decide for us and we could give it some information. But if AI is not enabled, and in this case, we're not looking at it, we can go in and we can look at the task right here and we can select the name of the task. And so what it will do now is it will say, please approve task name, and it will automatically pull that in. All right. I'm going to do one other thing because we're here so you can see just what this can look like and how we can start building in some logic into our rules and automations. I'm going to go and add something else as well. I'm going to scroll all the way down and I'm going to add collaborators because though it might be assigned to Kelly, I want to make sure that Finn is notified and added to this task if they weren't already. And I'm also going to go in and do something else. I'm going to add a comment to say that variable task name has been marked as, and I can actually use another variable. I can use custom field, status design, and then I can say at Finn, please support. I can add another variable. So I can add, in this case, people, the person who triggered the rule, their name, like so. Please support rule triggerer to get this approved. There we go. So now we've given Asana some more instructions. We're starting to think about, okay, great. How do we make it so that nothing falls between the cracks? We have some context. We're bringing other people into the conversation. But I want to do one more thing before we leave this view. Let's go back to the when stage. And I'm going to change the name of this rule, okay? One of the best practices and things that I like to teach is when we're creating rules, it's easy to get carried away and create a bunch of rules. I see it all the time. You have a list of 30 different rules. It's difficult to go in and manage those rules and govern them. If something breaks or you want to change an approver or change messaging, you have to go and find that. And if they're not named properly, it can be really, really challenging. And so what I often recommend to do is rather than having one rule per action you want to complete is to do something like this. So I'm going to call this status design changes, just like that. All right. So in this case, when the status design is changed, the first branch is going to check if creative review has been selected. But if we select the plus next to when and go otherwise if, we now have a branch where we can go back and say, but what if in progress has been selected? Or what if, let's add another one, completed has been selected. We already know from our other rule that when the task is completed, this will be added here, right? So when this completed stage comes up, we could have done this in our other rule, of course, but let's assume we didn't. Let's assume we are stacking all of our different status changes in one rule so we can easily govern it. We would say, when this is selected, we want to do a couple things. We want to complete the task and we want to throw some confetti. So we can come in here, I can add an emoji. What's the confetti one? Party, there we go. We completed another task. Way to go, team. Ice cream time, right? Something like that. So, and then we go back to our in progress, right? When this is changed, what do we want to happen? When it's in progress, maybe we want to add it to another project automatically, right? So we can move this into our customer escalations, right? We can put it in their new requests or in their backlog section as a task is moved to in progress. And then we can say, a comment. You can say, at Jamie, over to you, right? We can come back in and we can automatically reassign that task to Jamie as well, right? And so now we're starting to track all of our different status changes here, and let's publish that rule and let's just try it out. So we've got our design one here. What were our different options? We had one for it was creative review. So let's actually put it back to creative review and see what happens. So there is a rule running now. You can see by the lightning bolt in the left there. And let's just go in and see exactly what happened. So here we have a subtask that's assigned to Kelly for 2 days from now. I'm recording on a Friday. Please approve design number 1. And then here we have design number 1 has been marked for the name of the custom field. Finn has been added as a collaborator, right? Please support Niha to get this approved. Awesome. This worked exactly how we wanted it to. So it's in creative review. Let's just do this one here because it was another one that we had in our rule. We're going out of order, I know, but let's say we move this to in progress. Let's see what's going to happen. What should happen is, yeah, there it is. It gets moved to our customer escalations backlog. Jamie has been assigned the task owner, and then Jamie Staples over to you. There we go. And let's just go back and we're going to complete that task now. There we go. And the task has been completed. So we've just created a couple of really simple rules that honestly have the power to do so much within Asana. All right, let's keep going here. I'm going to switch over to our board view so we can start to take a look at some of the other views here. So if we did want to work in this style, we can move our work through and we can update it this way. If we wanted to look at our work on a timeline, I also activated the Gantt chart. We can easily do that. You can see our sections here. And what's nice about these views is for a task, you can simply hover over that task. You'll see that the cursor changes to those double chevrons, and you can change the duration of that task. You can click and drag to change where the task starts and ends. We can do that for any of our other tasks that have assignees already. You'll notice as I'm hovering over these tasks, these little nodes pop out at the top and the bottom. That allows us to create dependencies between these tasks. And so if I hover over one of them, it says drag to create dependency, right? How easy is that? We're going to drag and we're going to hover over our other task. It's going to change color there. We let go. We've created our first dependency, right? Just like that. When we click into our dependent task here, we can see now that the task is blocking the completion of our other task here, our email 1 task. We can change the direction of that to say that the completion of draft articles is blocked by email 1. And then we can change it from a finish to start, finish to finish, start to start, or start to finish in this case as well, to really start building out our dependencies, create our critical path, and then start really interacting with our work. Now, I get a lot of questions about dependencies. There's a whole training and masterclass on just dependencies, but I'll show you something here really quickly that will help you better understand how you can use these. And so if we go into, let's go back to our task list here for a second so you can see what this looks like before I talk about that. But we can see here that we have, this draft articles task, that's blocked by email 1, all right? And so here's email 1 down here. So as you can see, I cannot complete this task. It's waiting on one task. So once email 1 is completed, it's going to unblock this task and allow me to start working. Now, me as, Niha will get a message in my inbox to say, hey, this task is unblocked. You can start working on this task now. And so Asana's, thought ahead, whereas Alan doesn't have to go tell me, hey, I'm done now. You can start this and have another conversation. Asana's taking care of all of that in the background. Let's assign a few more tasks here, and we'll go back to our timeline there so we can see exactly what is happening and what some of the capabilities are for dependencies. Oh, didn't mean to complete that. There we go. So let's go back on our timeline view. So we've added a few more folks to the party here. All right, and so what we can do when we're updating our timeline, or if you want to view it on a Gantt chart, we can also do that, you get your sections, your tasks here. You can see the due date. You can see what's blocking what exactly here as well. So it's really nice that just depending on the view that you want, we get a bit of a simpler view here for long-term planning. We can zoom in or out, for our different tasks across, time durations, or if we want, a little bit more focus here, we can focus in with the Gantt view. Same way as a timeline, you can hover over a task and drag it to another task to create that dependency. Now, what would happen if this task moved over here? Would we want that kind of behavior? Would we want the task that is, blocked by it, or blocking it, sorry, to move as well? Maybe, right? It might make sense. But then if we move it back in time, why doesn't this task move? And so to update that or to change that, you want to go to your options here, and then you want to go to project dependency settings. And so this will get you to understand how we can change the behavior of these dependencies. And so what we have right now is that it's set to consume the buffer. So right now, if a task changes, that dependent task changes, we saw how it moved the task ahead in time. But the second that we pulled it back, there was no impact or change to the task that had been dragged out. Not good in all cases. And so we can change to maintain buffer, where now any dependent tasks will maintain that buffer and all of those changes will be updated. Now, what it's describing for us right here is maintaining a buffer for only tasks that are downstream. So after the fact, how do we want these tasks to behave? Do we want those to maintain the buffer? Or do we want all dependent tasks, even preceding tasks to maintain that buffer? And so we want to be selective, and it will just depend on the use case for the project, how we want to manage all of this, right? So that's how maintain buffer work, consume buffer, or if we want no changes to be made, we just want them to move independently of each other and overlap and create more chaos. Totally up to you, depends on your use case, all right? Last thing I'll show you here is the work schedule. So what's nice about Asana is when you click on work schedule and go into your project settings, you can set your project schedule. Okay. And so this helps to understand when your team is available online, when dependent tasks should be shifted to, if it falls on a weekend, is that going to be good for us? Is that bad for us? If we have SLAs to adhere to, are we going to meet those because something's due on Saturday at 2 p.m? It's probably not going to help us, right? And so we want to be able to set either an everyday change or schedule, sorry, I should say, where 7 days a week this would adhere to it, or we can set a custom schedule here. But let's just assume it's Monday to Friday. We want to choose our working hours. I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And so we have our 9 to 5 schedule set up right here. So what Asana will do is it's best to make sure that when these due dates are updated and changed, they fall within those business hours. And so you want to make sure that you are updating your project settings when you start using Asana. All right. One of the last things I'll show you inside of a project is we've started to move some things around. We started to see, what some of the powers of Asana allow us to do. I'm going to go into dashboards here for a moment. And so what a dashboard is a collection of all of the information and custom fields that are available in that project. We did not create this dashboard. Asana created this dashboard as a default. And so it's given us information that it thinks will be helpful to us based on the custom fields that are already available in the project when we started. And so by default, you're getting, your total number of tasks, incomplete tasks, overdue tasks, total tasks, and whatever else you want really. But as you remember, we created some custom fields. So now we want to be able to see the types of work that are in our project and the status of those different pieces of work. And so rather than using one of the defaults, which are great, by the way, we can go and we can add a widget. and add a chart here. And so we have the option to create bar charts, stack bar charts, group bar charts, line, burn up, burn down, donut number, and lollipop charts here in Asana. But if we wanted to see, it's already brought up what I wanted to show you, which is really nice. But we wanted to get a bar chart. I actually like the donut style better. It's easier to view in my opinion. We can turn on or off the labels on the chart. But now it's showing us our collective tasks by the status that they're in. Okay, so that's really nice. If we wanted to, we could group them by the custom fields that we've added. And we've only added one custom field. I haven't even shown you all the other incredible ways that we can use Asana, but we've got a custom field here that we want to view. Great, we can see that there are 9 total tasks in our project, but I only want to see the ones that are incomplete, let's just say. So we have 3 completed, right? And of the incomplete tasks, there are 6 of them still, and 2 of them match this, these different statuses. But then if I wanted to drill down even further, I could go and add a filter, and I could say where the due date, in this case, is within the next 2 weeks. There are no tasks that match this criteria right now. Let's just see what happens when I switch to within the last 2 weeks. Where did I put my tasks? Let's see months here within the next, there we go. So within the next 2 months, there are, 3 total tasks. 2 of them are completed. 1 of them is in the request stage that is also incomplete. Let's give it another filter though. If we want to get really granular, we can look at the assignees. So if we want to see tasks that are incomplete within the next 2 months that are assigned to only Neha, we can drill down that far if we wanted to and add all the different types of filters to give us the view that we want. But as you can see, the more filters we add, the more granular it gets, all right? And then like we did for our rule, we want to make sure we name this something that is meaningful to us. So in this case, this is total incomplete tasks by status. Yeah, I like that. I don't like that you can't just add on to what it suggested. Complete tasks by status over the next 2 months. And I can add that chart into Asana. I can then change it to be a full view or a half view. If I want to get something similar to this, I can quickly duplicate this chart, go back in, and I can add, some filtering. So if I just want to see the completed tasks, like so, I can remove that. And then I can say completed tasks by status, and I remove the time filter, right? And so we can save that chart. There we go. And now I have 2 different charts that I completed all through the power of our custom fields. So I always say this when I'm doing trainings. If you want to report on the information inside of Asana, you need to make sure you have the custom fields set up so that you can report on it. So if we were to add a few more, if we were to add, say, impact, and we knew what I'm doing right now is shift, hold, and click to multi-select. And then I can select multiple tasks at once and change the custom field. So if I wanted to create a chart that showed me all of the tasks that were high impact versus medium impact, I would have to create a custom field for that. Let's see if I have one that's specific to region, maybe. Perfect. Let's pull these up right here. These tasks are specific to EMEA. These ones are specific to Namer. And then these tasks are specific to Latin America. So now if I wanted to see completed tasks within the last 2 weeks that are high impact in EMEA, right, I would get, 2 tasks, let's just say, right? And so that's really the power of custom field. And so to my earlier example, if you're coming over from spreadsheets where you have columns on columns and columns with different information, Asana would give you something similar to this, where you're going to be able to see all your different columns, all the different selected options that you created. They won't be committed to your company library. They're going to be private to you because you imported that information. But this is what we could start to see and get used to. And then if we really want to, we can start creating different views inside of Asana. So I have my list view. I gave you the board view already. I gave you the timeline view. I gave you the dashboard view, the Gantt. I didn't look at the note view, but pretty self-explanatory. You've got a place where you can put, important information, dates, meeting agendas. So again, if you're having a meeting, you can have all of your notes in one place. You can have your project brief here by selecting one of these options, having your key resources all in one place, or a blank note. It's totally up to you. But let's say I wanted to start, creating, some different groupings and sort my work. So I'm coming in, I work on the namer tasks. That's all I want to see. I don't want to see everything. This could be hundreds or thousands of tasks deep. And so I only want to see namer when I come into my marketing basics demo project. So I'm going to go up to the top right. I'm going to filter, and I'm going to click on add filter. And I'm going to select the custom field by which I want to filter my work. All right. So I'm going to select region first because that's the one where namer exists. And I'm going to say is namer. I'm going to remove the EMEA option here. Great, there we go. But now I only want to see the high impact tasks. I don't want to see all the medium and low impact tasks. I'm going to add another filter. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go to impact and I'm going to set it to high. All right. If I wanted to, I could change that at any point. So now I get to see just the high impact namer tasks. And rather than saving the view, which will essentially be the default view for everybody to see, I want to save my own custom view. So I'm going to click on this chevron to the right of save view, and I'm going to save as a new tab. And I'm going to call this namer high impact, like so. And I'm going to reorganize that to go right there. And I can easily go back to my list view, which is my everything view. But if I want to just get to namer, I can do that. All right. We can even go a step further. I love doing this inside of Asana where you can group your work as well. So right now, our standard grouping are the sections we created. All right, let's go back to our list view for a second. These are all the sections we created. All right, and so this can be helpful. It allows us to see and separate our different types of work. But if we wanted to group instead of sections, we wanted to group just by the status, we could quickly change that. Right, so now we can view all the ascending work by status, and I'm going to save that as my main view. So now we can see everything that's in article, scoping, in progress, creative, and completed, and it's sorting by all of these different stages. I can then even add a subgrouping to that, where I want to see the requests as well as the impact and sort it that way as well. So I can add an impact subgrouping and save that view. So let's close some of these up so it's easier to see here. There we go. So if I went into scoping, where did we have a couple completed, let's say. If I went into the completed work, I could now see all of the completed work separated by high impact and medium impact as well. And so we can get really creative with the different filters. We can sort, we can group. As you've seen here, we can create our different views. There's lots that we can do, all right? I'm gonna go back to my main grouping, which was our sections here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a form. I think it's really important that you understand how work can come into Asana. And this is one of the ways that we can do that. So let's take a look at form building. Again, let's go over to customize, where we've already explored rules. Right? We've created fields by clicking on the plus sign beside our columns. We could also go here to create those fields. If we wanted to create a new section, we could come in here and we could see all the different sections that have been added to this project. We can move them around. We're going to create a form here in a moment, but we can also, create task templates. Now, in this example, we'll go to task templates afterwards. But in this example, you can create a template for articles. So if articles need to follow these different steps or have this level of information within them, then we can, set a task template, then make sure that anytime we create a new task rather than a blank task, we would actually see task article template or email template, which is really nice. And we can also create different project templates as well. If we have any kind of, campaigns or events or, meeting templates, anything that would be recurring that would happen, at different times of our year. So we will be taking a quick look at that shortly. But let's take a look at forms here for a minute. I'm going to go and add in a really, really simple form. All right. So this is going to be marketing. Let's call this basics request demo. All right. By default, it gives you the name and email address. If this is for internal uses only, we don't need the email address, but maybe you want to know who the person is who submitted it. It could be anonymous, or maybe you want to bring them into the conversation and add them as a collaborator once the request is submitted. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check our form settings here. So right now, anyone can access this form. So that means anyone internal or external can access this form. But if we wanted to restrict it to just organization only, then only people within your org could use this form or have any access to it. Now, if we wanted, we could provide this that any submitter of the organization becomes a collaborator. And so if we select this option right here, it doesn't ask them for their email. It already knows their email. So they'll be added automatically and again, can be brought into the conversation. All right, so let's just set it that way. And we want to say that when this form is submitted, we want it to land in the new requests section like so. Now let's start adding some questions. So we can see what fields are available to us. We've got our region, we've got our impact, and we've got our status here. So let's add our impact and our region like so. All right. And then we can, change this up a little bit. So rather than calling this impact, we can say, what is the impact of this task? And then someone can select that. We can make it required or optional in this case. Let's make it required. And then for the region, we can say, what region is this for? And they can select one of the predefined options there. We can then go in and we can, click and drag one of our options for attachments. So I can say, please add any documents or relevant files like so, and we can allow multiple attachments like that. I'm going to make it optional just in case we don't have anything to add in. And then we can add a new question here. And so this is where we can pull in existing fields, right? So let's say the due date. We can say, when is this due? And we can add a single day or a date range. I want a single day. I'm going to make it required. And I can add in another question here, which I can make custom. What is the urgency? And maybe the impact would answer this for us, but I can add in my own options. So I can say high, medium, or low, and I can have this be required. And then if I wanted to, I could connect it to an existing field, or I could create a new field right from here. All right, so let's go and we're going to save this form here. And you'll notice now that we have this little file that is at the top of our new request. And so this means, and what this displays, is that any requests that come in will land in this section. So let's go and let's view the form. So it's already pulled in my name and knows who I am. It's pulled in my email. What's the impact of this task? It's high. Region is for EMEA. I don't have anything to add in there. Let's create something really quickly. Just create a screenshot. And now let's select a file. When is this due? It's going to be due on the 17th. And what's the urgency? Low, right? So let's submit that form and go back to Asana. And we'll see now that that form has been submitted right here with all the information that was input through the fields. And then we have our attachment here, which we could go in and, mark up if we needed to. And say, add more color, something like that, and give feedback on, that task as well. So that's what a form submission looks like, okay? So as you can see, because we filled out these fields, they automatically came in, but it didn't automatically add the request status signed to it. It's not assigned to anybody. We've got our due date, but there's a few things that are missing from this, okay? So what we're gonna do is go back to our rules for a moment, and we can say add, start from scratch. We can say when a task is added to this project, whether it's all tasks or simply form submissions, and we select the form we just created, we want to check if the section is new requests. And then we want to do this. We want to change the status to, you guessed it, request, and we want to assign it to someone so that we can have someone accountable for that intake. So change assignee to Alan in this case, and we can call this rule new request triage. And we can publish that rule. Now, I'm not going to run it again, but just imagine we ran this rule. Automatically, it would have, been created under the request status. It would have been assigned to Alan, and everything is all good. Now, what I want to do is show you how status updates work, and then we're going to move into our portfolio because I think it's really important that we take a look at portfolios and how that can work for us. Now, we've been working on our project to span, a week or so. We're feeling really good about the progress. We're moving things along. We're completing tasks. Everyone's collaborating. We're communicating. It feels really, really good. Now, we want to share that news with the rest of the organization. We can go up here and we can set the status. We can also go to our overview tab and we can select a status from the list here. So again, we're feeling really good about it. The project is on track. Let's go on track right there. By default, it's going to give you what the project name is, but we're going to change this to way to go team. You're crushing it. We're all crushing it. We can add collaborators to this draft as well. So Alan, because he's a project admin, he might have some input here. And so before this draft actually goes live, Alan can provide his input for the team as well. And so what's nice about this is we can show or hide our different fields, and we can add attachments here. We can add a summary. So love what's going on here. Great job. And we can fill in our information. Next steps, keep crushing it. Like so. What just happened to me? Keep crushing it. There we go. Asana has what we also call highlights. And so in the right-hand panel here, you can see there are different blocks that have information. And so what this allows us to do is, based on a duration of time, 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks. In this case, I'm going to keep it to 2 weeks. Let's assume we're doing updates every 2 weeks. We can pull in what's been completed, what's overdue, or what's upcoming. Okay, so rather than just simply summary and next steps, I'm going to hover in the middle here and I'm going to add a block. I'm going to call this what's done. I'm going to have another one here called what's blocked. And I'm going to add one here called simply what's next, like that. Okay, so what's done? Let's just drag and drop these here, and it will bring in, there are no milestones just yet. It'll bring in the tasks, bring in the milestones, and any approvals that we have set here, and it will identify what they are. So these tasks have been completed in the last 2 weeks. Only one of them was assigned. It was assigned to Jamie in this case. The others were completed without an assignee. Then we can switch to the blocked option, or in this case, it would just simply be overdue. No tasks are overdue, but we could drag those in here. So rather than having to go back and forth to your project plan, wherever you're working, and copy and paste or write these in multiple times, you can simply click and drag. And then we can also see what's upcoming. So no milestones upcoming, no approvals, but we have 2 tasks that are upcoming. And of course, we can add in more info. As the project owner or project admin, we can remind ourselves to set this status every 2 weeks. Every Friday. And so in this case, if we did want to just look at just like a 1-week time frame, we can toggle this remind me to update every Friday. It'll be private to me. So I'll get a task in my task to come in and update this. And so now I might want to add a few more people. So I want to add in, who is it? Finn and Kelly to this update. I want to invite them. There we go. And now 7 people will be notified of this. So if there are people outside of this that I wanted to bring in, who else can I find? Jack. We don't have a Jack yet. So now, there we go. Now 8 people will be notified, right? So that's another way we can keep everyone on the same page. No one has to go track down the status of a task. It's all right there for us, and we can post that status update. And what's nice is when we're now inside of Asana, we can come back to our status update. We can comment on it. We can give kudos. We can, share our congratulations. We can, really do whatever we want to do, so that we can celebrate and be involved in the success that we're all having. And what will happen over time is you can see the different changes and updates of the different team members. Right. So we've covered a lot in this project building. I want to show you what portfolios can look like, and then we'll round out this training session with or this overview session with just some notifications and some of your settings so that you can get going with Asana as well, because I'm sure you're eager to jump in and start working through it. So we're going to go back over to our insights for a moment. We're going to star our marketing basics demo so we can get back to it really easily. And there it popped up in the side for us. So in our portfolio, we're going to go in. And again, portfolios are simply folders of work. And so we can go in, we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call this marketing demo portfolio. And so we can set our privacy here. So it's going to be public to my entire organization, or I can make it private to only my portfolio members. I'm going to keep it to the whole organization, and we're going to continue to our portfolio. Now what we can do is start adding our different work. So that's the first thing we want to do to get this populated. We can add in our work. So the first thing we're going to do is add in my marketing basics demo project to this. And I'm also going to add in our customer escalations and our IT projects, as well as our marketing assets and marketing agency campaign. Why not? Let's bring in everything marketing. We got some ops and IT in here as well. And so what projects allow us to do is see at a high level, like or grouped projects. So yes, we have IT and customer escalations in here, but let's assume this was a portfolio that had all of our different campaigns in them. And so what we can do is we can have our due dates added here. Let's just add in some durations, right? Like so, let's add in a duration for this. And like we did on our timeline or Gantt view at the project level, we can now come into the timeline for all of our different projects. So rather than having to look, and drill down at the task level, we can now get a high level view of all of our projects. And like we were able to do earlier, we can see our different timelines and make changes. And what's nice is if we had added project milestones, actually, let's go add a few. So when we click on a task, we can simply click on the three dots. We can convert it to a milestone. Let's convert Article 1 to a milestone as well. And let's convert our completed Article 2 also to a milestone. We go back to our overview. We can see our milestones there. And then once we go back to our portfolio and timeline, we can see our milestones there as well. And so the question often is like, how can I see all of my different projects and then see, those key dates, those key action items without having to go into the project? This is the response right here. And so you can see exactly what's going on, what's on track, what's upcoming based on, where we're at today, and then make decisions, based off of that. And like we saw at the project level, we have a dashboard here as well. So this is an aggregate of all the information that is inside of our various projects. So there are a total of 165 projects or tasks, within the projects that I've added to this portfolio. Of the 5 or 6, I think I added there, there are and they're right here. There are 5. There are 25 completed tasks, 140 incomplete tasks, and 11 overdue tasks. And like we did earlier, we can add a chart widget, and we can now look at total tasks by assignee. We can change that to be completion status or, dates that are, have a due date within the next, so-and-so 2 weeks. And we can add that chart as well. So we can get information now across multiple projects. So if it was campaigns, we can really get a lot of insight from that. And then like we saw earlier with our workload, again, the default is task count. We didn't add any estimated time to any of these tasks, but we can start to get a sense of workload of our team as well. If we did assign estimated time to all of our different tasks, we could then take a look at, how much time is actually allocated to our different resources across all of our campaign projects. So again, we're not overloading people and we're not underutilizing our team. And then like we did earlier with our project, we can create a status update. What I didn't show you earlier was how we can use AI to also draft that. So it's going to look at all the projects in our portfolio. We can set a general status, and we can look at a date range since the last time we created a status update. We can even add guidance if we wanted to add in some color or some context to inform this status update. I'm not going to give it any context, but I'm going to draft this update and see what it gets us. So right now it's analyzing the information, it's finding all the progress, analyzing potential blockers, looking at risk, everything you would expect for a project manager to be able to do, but just a lot faster. There we go. So within about 30 seconds, it's pulled together a summary here where it's looking at all the different projects and giving us a summary of the marketing assets requests, IT requests. Let's take a look at our project. This project has seen significant activity with the completion of several tasks, including Article 2, Design 1, and Design 2. A new status update was posted December 5th, indicating the project is on track. And so overall, it's given us this update. It's pulling context. So imagine all the activity, all the changes, all the conversations that are happening across the entirety of these 5 projects is now compiled into one place where I don't have to go and ask anybody. I can get it. And we can do this at any time, any point we want. And again, if you're subscribed to the overview section where we had, the activity tracker, the risk report, and the summary you get every single week, you're getting all of this at your fingertips, again, without needing to ask. And so we can now go in and we can edit this or refine it. We can make changes. Definitely recommend bringing a human into the loop. We know that AI can hallucinate. And so you just want to make sure that this information is correct. Just validate the information. We use this every single week at Surface. Our solutions engineers, this is how they update the status updates. We're reading them. We wouldn't be putting it out there or showing you how to use it if we didn't believe in it as well. It does work, but we always want to have a human in the loop just to make sure it's capturing all the context and that it's not hallucinating on things. All right, so it's got all of our blockers. We can go in, we can make changes, we can add anything else that we want to. I'm even going to pull in our highlight here that shows the 2 projects that are on track. The blockers here, I'm going to pull in any of the projects that it shows that are off track, and I'm going to post that status update for the entire portfolio. And if I was in leadership and didn't want to have to wait weekly, again, I can click subscribe to the entire portfolio of work, and I will get an email and an inbox notification every single week showing me my own summary of what's gone on across all of those different projects. So very, very powerful. Let's get back to our marketing basics demo project here, and let's close out this overview with some settings. So you're brand new with Asana. We've covered so much. Just there's a few things left that I want to show you. And let's go into the settings. So when you first come in, I'm going to recommend upload your photo, put in your name. You can add in your pronouns, your job title. This is what the team settings page is pulling in. So whatever's here in your job profile, it's going to pull it into the team settings. If you have a name like mine that for a lot of people is difficult to say, it's Marquis, but we get Marquis all the time. I can record the correct pronunciation of my name. The S is silent. And so you can do that just to help out your coworkers. You can add in your role as well as a description of yourself. This is also where you can set your out of office. All right, you can set do not disturb, timeframes for notification. I'll show you that as well. But set up your profile is the recommended next step here before you start working in Asana. Then we look at notifications. Now, by default, when you get started in Asana, you're going to get a lot of notifications. You're going to get a lot of emails as well. So again, all the activity, all the different changes that happen inside of Asana, you'll be notified in your, that's right, Asana inbox. Great job. But you're also going to get a lot of emails about the changes. This is intentional. It's because in a lot of cases, we're coming from email. We're not used to working in Asana yet. And so we want to make sure that nothing's being missed. So you'll notice that in your inbox in Asana, you'll be assigned to a task, but then you'll get an email saying you've been assigned to that task. And after a few days of working in Asana, you're going to start to think, how do I reduce the amount of email? I already have too much email. Come back into Asana. Don't worry. Go to your settings, notifications, click on email notifications, and you can decide on which email notifications you want to stop receiving. All right. So in this case, we want to any updates on work. So anytime anything is shared with me, I don't want to receive that. But when something's assigned, maybe I want to receive that. When your work is blocked or unblocked, yeah, that could be helpful. When work assigned to you is completed, I might not need to know that because if it's assigned to me, I'm probably the one that completed it. I don't need an email about that. So you can kind of pick and choose what communications are important to you as you get started. The recommendation is within the first few weeks, you should be comfortable enough to know that you start your day in Asana. Your email inbox, your at company domain, that's your external inbox. That's what everyone else outside of your team needs you to do. Your priority is going to be what's inside of Asana, your priority inbox. And so starting your inbox, make sure as you get used to that, you can come in and start to just turn these off because you don't need to be notified outside of Asana because you're working in Asana now every single day. So I would suggest turning off those email notifications. The next set of notifications you're going to get in Asana that may be overwhelming to you are different project and portfolio settings or notifications. So by default, when you get added to a project or a portfolio, the person that's inviting you has the option to make sure that you are updated on every single time a task is added to a project or every single time a project is added to a team, or every single time a status update goes out, you saw me add the recipient in for a status update, that wasn't, I believe his name was Jack, that wasn't a part of that initial update, right? And so you're getting a lot of things that might not be relevant to you. And again, clogging up your Asana inbox. And so if you don't want to receive globally status updates, messages, or when tasks are added to projects, turn them off. I wouldn't recommend that. Maybe status updates keep on, messages keep on. We don't want there to be any silos. But when a task is added to a project, might not be helpful for you. So globally, you can make those changes, but that's totally up to your discretion. Now, if you did want to go in and manage individual projects, if there are those projects that are taking more time from you or more energy or more focus, and they're just cluttering your inbox, you can make those individual changes. And so you can choose that tasks added to marketing basics demo. I don't need those. And maybe I would, also, I don't need messages from IT requests. I'm not on that team. I don't need to know what's going on, but I'd like a high level view every now and then, of what changes have taken place. And then status updates, marketing asset requests, that might be helpful to me. Tasks added, I want to see what assets are being, requested. So maybe I do want those changes. So you can really customize this for the type of project. Okay. We can then get into notifications for Slack and Teams, and we can even build in notifications and automate those, that when a task moves to a certain stage, we can notify a team in Slack or send a message there. There's so much more that we can do as we get more advanced in Asana. As we're getting used to moving out of our email, though, again, we have our external to do, which is our external email where everyone else wants us to do these things. We're trying to focus on what's in Asana. But anytime that there is work that needs to be actioned, we can move it from our inbox into Asana in a few different ways. But the easiest way would be to forward that email to this address, x@mail.asana.com. This will drop that task. The subject line of the email is now the task title. The body of the email is the description. Any attachments are attachments. Any collaborators or people that are CC'd on that email and work with you are collaborators on that task. And so all that information can be forwarded directly into Asana so that we can take action on it. And then we just want to make sure that we assign it to our organization here. So what I would do is I would send a couple emails, get X or add it to your contacts list so you can quickly forward emails off so you can take action on them inside of Asana. Now, under account, there's more like administrative things. You don't really need to focus in here, but it would let you know like what organization you're in, if you're a part of any other workspaces, if you have to add another email, maybe your company underwent a rebranding and there's another email associated to your company, and the IT administrators said, hey, we're changing email domains. Add it here. You can do things like that. But typically, day to day, there's not a lot that you're doing here. And anything like two-factor authentication or security is typically governed in the admin console. And there's only select people who have access to make those decisions. Now, on the display side, this is where you can set, your taskbar to be gray or, black. So dark light in that case. We can sync it with whatever our system settings are. First day of the week, I like it to be on Monday, but you can set it to whatever you want. You'll notice throughout the demo, there were notifications and, activity changes popping up for me in the left-hand side. They can pile up if you're making a lot of changes. And so do we want them to be there for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, any longer duration? We can make those changes there as well. You'll notice here on the left-hand side, when I click on show numbers, right, it adds these numbers to the list of tasks here. I like that personally, because if you have a long list of tasks, you can see quickly which number we're talking about, especially if we're screen sharing and we want to talk about item number 19 on the agenda, right? We can quickly, hone in on those. And then we can change our different views. So the compact view allows you to see more in your space. So removes the padding, I'll say, around the lettering, like that. And then I'll say you want to turn this on, show occasional celebrations. There's another tool that I want to show you. It's so silly. Whenever I display this, people say, why didn't you show that the whole time? It's like the best part of the overview. But show occasional celebrations. Asana is no stranger to having fun. You'll notice as you complete tasks, milestones, goals, even that these mythical creatures fly across the screen. So whether it's an otter or a unicorn or a yeti, they might show up from time to time. So if you like that kind of thing and you want to see occasional celebrations, I'd recommend turning that on. Apps, if you did want to connect your different apps, again, this is likely governed by your IT department. So you want to check with what your internal policies are. Then under the hacks part, I'm going to recommend just turn it on. Extra delight. You want extra delight. Trust me, just turn it on. We're going to reload to apply all of these changes, and I'm going to show you why you want extra delight. So let's complete this milestone. There we go. I got some unicorns flying across the screen. Let's complete a few more tasks here. There's a yeti flying across the screen. And so like it's kind of like a little dopamine boost, I guess, right? You get to have some fun, see some color in your day. But then if it's one of those days where you're feeling, especially down and you want a quick pick me up, another shortcut key is Tab B. And so if you are a cat person, you can repeatedly press Tab B and all these cats will just appear on the screen. No one knows why they're here other than to amuse us. The second you click, they disappear. But if you're more of a dog person like me and press Tab V as in Victor, our little furry friends all pop up. See if I can see my taco here. But there we go. Yeah. Tab V for our canine friends. And then if you're more on the feline side, then Tab B as in Bob to see those. So just some fun in your day. I mentioned shortcuts a few times here. And so at any point, as you're using Asana, you can click up in the question mark in the top right-hand side here. You'll see shortcuts here. There's a list of all of them. Things like quick completing tasks, quickly setting the due date, Tab D, or assigning a task to yourself, Tab M. I use these all day, every day. To open and close task details, to move tasks around. There's lots that you can do. And so you want to take a look at those helpful guides right inside of there. I hope you've enjoyed this overview of Asana. I hope you're able to jump around to the different places in Asana that, really stuck out to you, that you really wanted to learn about. We've learned about some of the basic AI features. We've learned about rule building. We've learned about collaborating in Asana. We've learned about automating. We've learned about status updates and messaging and portfolios. There's so much to uncover in Asana, and that's one of my favorite things about it. It is a big open box. I could have spent 6 or 7, I can't believe I just said that, hours showcasing all the different capabilities of Asana, even at the basic level, but we've only just scratched the surface today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I will personally respond to every single one of those questions to make sure that you, again, can make the most informed decision for your team. Thank you, as always, for watching. If this is your first time here, thanks for sticking around. I hope you subscribed already because you got some value out of today. And do me a favor, please share this video with someone else on your team who would benefit from the value that was provided today. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.